500 million people. That's not a typo. 500 million accounts compromised in a single attack. Names, birth dates, phone numbers, security questions, passwords, all of it. Gone, stolen. And the most disturbing part? Yahoo had no idea for 2 years. 2 full years. While people logged in every day, checking emails, sharing photos, living their digital lives, someone else was doing the exact same thing. Reading everything, copying everything, collecting data on a scale that seemed impossible. This wasn't some sophisticated zero-day exploit, a secret flaw in software that no one knew existed. This wasn't a team of elite hackers spending months crafting the perfect attack. It was simpler than that. And that's what makes it terrifying. It was a phishing email. Spear phishing. To be specific, a carefully crafted fake message designed to look perfectly legitimate, targeted at one specific person inside Yahoo. Like receiving a letter from your bank, except the person who sent it spent weeks studying exactly how your bank writes its letters, what font they use, what language, what tone. It looks so real that even a trained eye might miss the difference. And someone inside Yahoo missed it. One click. That's all it took. But the people behind that email weren't ordinary criminals. They were 2 officers from Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB, the successor to the KGB, working alongside one of the most wanted cybercriminals on the planet. And the company they targeted wasn't some small operation. Yahoo in 2014 was a titan, billions of users worldwide, hundreds of millions of active email accounts, a company that had once been the gateway to the internet itself. Their servers held more personal information than most governments. Medical discussions buried in emails, love letters, business secrets, tax documents, the kind of data that, in the wrong hands, could destroy lives. And yet, for all its size and importance, Yahoo's security infrastructure had cracks, deep ones. Some of their password protections still used MD5, an outdated hashing algorithm, essentially a way of scrambling passwords so they can't be read directly. The problem? MD5 was considered obsolete by security experts for years. Cracking an MD5 hash is like picking a lock with a paperclip. Quick, easy, and embarrassingly simple for anyone with the right tools. The stronger alternative, bcrypt, was being rolled out, but it hadn't reached every account yet. So that gap between what should have been and what actually was. That's where the nightmare began. Early 2014. An employee at Yahoo, not an executive, not a security engineer, but what the FBI would later describe as a semi-privileged staff member, received an email. It looked normal, routine even. But buried inside was a trap. One click and a door swung open into Yahoo's internal network. A door that would stay open for more than 2 years. The man who walked through that door was Alexei Balin, known online as Mag, a Latvian-born hacker who had already been indicted twice in the United States for breaking into major e-commerce companies. The FBI had put a $100,000 bounty on his head, and Interpol had issued a red notice, the international equivalent of a most wanted poster, requesting that any member nation arrest him on sight. He'd actually been arrested once, in Europe, in June 2013. The US was preparing extradition papers. He escaped, fled to Russia, and instead of handing him over to international authorities, Russia's FSB did something remarkable. They hired him. 2 FSB officers, Dmitry Dokuchayev and Igor Sushchin, recruited Balin to do their dirty work. Dokuchayev was a former hacker himself, someone who understood the underground. Sushchin was his superior. Together, they ran a unit inside the FSB that, ironically, was supposed to be Russia's official point of contact with the FBI on cybercrime matters. The very people who were supposed to help fight hackers were now directing them. Think about that for a second. The FBI's counterpart in Russia for fighting cybercrime was actively commissioning cybercrime. The foxes weren't just guarding the henhouse, they owned it. Once inside Yahoo's network, Balin moved with surgical precision. He wasn't smashing windows and grabbing everything in sight. He was methodical, clinical. He had two targets. The first was Yahoo's user account database, the master list containing information on every single Yahoo account in existence. Names, email addresses, phone numbers, dates of birth, hashed passwords, and security questions, some encrypted, some not. The crown jewels. The second target was even more dangerous. Yahoo's account management tool. This was the internal system Yahoo employees used to manage and edit user accounts. It was, in essence, a master key. With access to this tool and the stolen database, Balin could do something terrifying. He could become anyone. Using stolen cryptographic values called nonces, essentially unique digital tokens that verify a user's identity, Balin and his handlers learned how to forge cookies. Now, a cookie in the digital world isn't something you eat. It's a tiny file your browser stores that tells a website you've already logged in. When you visit Yahoo and it remembers who you are without asking for your password, that's a cookie doing its job. Forging a cookie means creating a fake version of that file, a counterfeit digital passport. It tells Yahoo's servers that someone has already been authenticated, that they've already proven who they are, when in reality, they never logged in at all. No password needed, no security question needed, just a forged cookie, and the front door opens wide. But here's the twist that separates this from ordinary cybercrime. Balin and the FSB didn't use this power on all 500 million accounts. Out of that ocean of stolen data, they carefully, deliberately generated forged cookies for approximately 6,500 accounts. That's it. Out of 500 million, they handpicked their targets like snipers. And those targets tell you everything about what this operation really was. Among the accounts they accessed, an assistant to the deputy chairman of Russia, an officer in Russia's Ministry of Internal Affairs, a trainer working in Russia's Ministry of Sports, Russian journalists, officials from countries bordering Russia, US government employees, workers at a Swiss Bitcoin wallet company, an employee of an American airline. This wasn't theft for profit. This was espionage. The FSB was using Yahoo as a window into the private lives of diplomats, journalists, political figures, and intelligence targets around the world. Every email, every contact list, every saved draft, all accessible with a forged cookie and a few keystrokes. But Balin wasn't just a loyal soldier. He was an opportunist. While giving the FSB what they wanted, he was running his own operation on the side. He searched through Yahoo emails for gift card codes and credit card numbers. He siphoned contact lists from over 30 million accounts to fuel a massive spam campaign. And in perhaps the most absurd detail of the entire story, he manipulated Yahoo's search engine results to redirect traffic toward an online pharmacy selling erectile dysfunction medication. The pharmacy paid him commissions for every visitor he sent their way. Russian intelligence was using Yahoo to spy on diplomats. Their hired hacker was using Yahoo to sell Viagra. And nobody at Yahoo noticed. Well, that's not entirely true. In late 2014, Yahoo's security team detected something. They found evidence that a state-sponsored actor had accessed certain user accounts through the account management tool. They identified 26 accounts that appeared to have been specifically targeted. 26 out of 500 million. They notified those 26 users. They contacted law enforcement. They implemented some additional security measures. And then, according to an internal investigation that would come years later, something failed. Senior executives, including people in Yahoo's legal department, were made aware of the intrusion. But they did not fully comprehend or investigate the true scope of what had happened. The security team knew. Leadership was informed. But the dots were never connected. The alarms were ringing, and the people in charge turned down the volume. For nearly 2 years, hundreds of millions of compromised accounts sat exposed. Forged cookies continued to be used through 2015 and into 2016. 32 million accounts were accessed through cookie forging alone during that period. And while all of this was happening, Yahoo was negotiating one of the biggest deals in tech history. In July 2016, Verizon Communications announced it would acquire Yahoo's core business for $4.8 billion. Due diligence was underway. Lawyers and accountants were combing through Yahoo's books. And in its SEC filing just weeks before the deal was announced, Yahoo stated, in writing under regulatory scrutiny, that it was not aware of any security breaches or loss, theft, unauthorized access, or acquisition of user data. That statement was, to put it charitably, incomplete. Around the same time, in mid-2016, Yahoo began investigating an apparently separate incident. During that investigation, they stumbled upon something they weren't expecting. The full scale of the 2014 breach began to emerge. Not 26 accounts, not thousands, not millions, 500 million. 500 million accounts had been copied. The entire user account database, lifted from Yahoo's servers and placed on a computer controlled by the attackers. And it had happened 2 years ago. On September 22nd, 2016, 2 months after the Verizon deal was announced, Yahoo finally went public. The press release hit like a bomb. 500 million accounts compromised. State-sponsored attackers. Data including names, emails, phone numbers, dates of birth, hashed passwords, and security questions. The market reacted instantly. Yahoo's stock dropped 3% in a single day. $1.3 billion in market value evaporated overnight. But the nightmare was only beginning. 3 months later, in December 2016, Yahoo dropped a second bomb. A separate breach, one that had occurred even earlier in August 2013, had compromised an additional 1 billion accounts. A year later, Yahoo would revise that number upward. Not 1 billion, 3 billion, every single Yahoo account that existed at the time. The company that was about to be sold for nearly $5 billion had just revealed that it had suffered the 2 largest data breaches in the history of the internet. And it had known about suspicious activity for years without grasping the full picture. Verizon did not walk away, but they renegotiated. Hard. The acquisition price was slashed by $350 million. Yahoo would share liability for breach-related costs going forward. Verizon also committed to spending $306 million over 3 years to overhaul Yahoo's security infrastructure, 5 times what Yahoo itself had spent on security between 2013 and 2016. That number deserves to sit with you for a moment. The company responsible for protecting the data of 3 billion people had been outspent on security by a factor of 5 compared to what its acquirer deemed the bare minimum. The legal and regulatory fallout was devastating. The SEC fined Yahoo $35 million for failing to disclose the breach in a timely manner. The first time the SEC had ever imposed such a penalty for a cyber attack. A class action lawsuit resulted in a $117.5 million settlement. Congressional hearings were held. Yahoo's general counsel resigned. CEO Marissa Mayer forfeited her annual bonus and equity grants, roughly $12 million, acknowledging that the breach had occurred on her watch. An internal investigation by an independent committee of Yahoo's board delivered a damning conclusion. The company's information security team had been aware of the compromise since late 2014. Senior executives and legal staff had been told, but they did not properly comprehend or investigate, and therefore failed to act sufficiently upon the full extent of knowledge known internally. They knew, and they didn't act. On March 15, 2017, the FBI formally charged 4 men, Dmitry Dokuchayev and Igor Sushchin, the 2 FSB officers who orchestrated the operation, Alexei Belin, the hacker who executed it, and Karim Baratov, a 22-year-old Canadian of Kazakh origin who had been recruited as a hacker for hire. Baratov's role was specific. When the FSB identified a target who didn't use Yahoo, someone with a Gmail account for instance, they couldn't use the forged cookies. So they outsourced the job. Baratov ran a hacking for hire service, advertising to Russian-speaking clients worldwide. For about $100 per account, he would fish his way into anyone's webmail. He cracked more than 11,000 accounts between 2010 and 2017. For the FSB, he targeted at least 80 accounts, including 50 on Gmail. Baratov wasn't exactly subtle about his income. He drove luxury cars. He posted photos of them on social media. When Canadian authorities arrested him in March 2017, his Instagram was a catalog of wealth funded by stolen passwords. He pled guilty. 5 years in federal prison, $250,000 in fines, $2.25 million in restitution to victims. Baratov was the only one who faced a courtroom. Dokuchayev, Sushchin, and Belin remain in Russia. There is no extradition treaty between the United States and Russia. Interpol's red notice on Belin has been outstanding since 2013. Russia has ignored every request. The FBI placed Belin on its Cyber Most Wanted list with a $100,000 reward. President Obama personally named him in a 2016 executive order imposing sanctions. None of it mattered. As of today, all 3 men remain free. But the story takes one more twist. Dokuchayev, the FSB officer who ran the operation, the man who recruited Belin and paid Baratov, was arrested by his own agency in December 2016. Not for the Yahoo hack, for treason. The details remain classified, shrouded in the opaque world of Russian intelligence politics. The man who betrayed American cybersecurity was apparently also betraying Russia. Or at least, someone within Russia's power structure decided he had. Nobody outside the Kremlin knows the full story, and that mystery might never be solved. What happened to the data? 500 million accounts worth of personal information didn't just vanish. In June 2016, months before Yahoo's public disclosure, security researchers spotted something alarming. Account credentials for roughly 200 million Yahoo users appeared for sale on a darknet marketplace called The Real Deal. Yahoo acknowledged it was aware of the listing. They evaluated it. They cautioned users. But they didn't reset passwords. The stolen data circulated. It was bought, sold, traded, and used. People who had never changed their Yahoo passwords, and worse, people who used the same password across multiple services, became targets. The ripple effects spread far beyond Yahoo. If your Yahoo password was the same as your banking password, your Amazon password, your work email password, then the breach didn't just compromise one account. It compromised your entire digital life. And that's what makes data breaches fundamentally different from other crimes. When someone robs a bank, the money is gone. But the vault is empty and everyone knows it. When someone steals 500 million digital identities, those identities continue to exist. They can be copied infinitely, sold repeatedly, used years later. The crime doesn't end when the hackers log off. It echoes. Families had their identities stolen. Professionals found their private communications exposed. Ordinary people who simply trusted a company with their email address found themselves tangled in fraud and harassment for years afterward. Some are still dealing with it today, cleaning up credit reports and closing accounts they didn't even remember having. The Yahoo breach changed the landscape permanently. The SEC's $35 million fine established a precedent. Companies that fail to disclose breaches face real financial consequences. The breach influenced discussions around what would become the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, which imposed strict rules about breach notification and data protection, with penalties reaching up to 4% of a company's global revenue. Corporate boards started treating cybersecurity not as a technical problem to delegate to the IT department, but as a fundamental business risk. Chief Information Security Officers, once mid-level positions, became C-suite executives reporting directly to CEOs and boards. Cybersecurity budgets exploded. Insurance companies created entirely new product lines around data breach liability. But here's the uncomfortable truth. It didn't stop. In 2017, Equifax was breached. 147 million people affected. In 2018, Marriott disclosed a breach impacting 500 million guests, almost identical in scale to Yahoo. In 2019, Facebook revealed that 530 million users' data had been scraped and leaked. In 2021, T-Mobile was hit. 77 million customers. Each breach was massive. Each one triggered outrage. Each one faded from the headlines within weeks. The pattern is clear, and it's accelerating. Every few months, another company, another 100 million records, another round of apologies, credit monitoring offers, and congressional hearings that lead to very little change. The Yahoo breach was supposed to be the wake-up call, the one that was so enormous, so devastating, that it forced the world to take digital security seriously. And in many ways, it did. Laws changed, practices improved, awareness grew, but the attacks kept coming, bigger each time, one click. That's what started the Yahoo breach. One employee, one email, one moment of inattention. And behind that click, a cascade. Russian intelligence, a most wanted hacker, forged cookies, 500 million stolen identities, a multi-billion-dollar acquisition gutted, careers destroyed, and a permanent scar on the history of the internet. What can you do about it? Use a unique password for every single account. Not variations of the same password, completely different ones. Use a password manager to keep track of them. It's the single easiest step you can take. Enable two-factor authentication on every service that offers it. That way, even if someone steals your password, they still can't get in without a second verification. And check your accounts. Go to Have I Been Pwned? Type in your email address and see if your data has been compromised in any known breach. The answer might surprise you. If this story made you think differently about that email you almost clicked on this morning, hit like and share this video. If you want to understand the operations, the people, and the mistakes behind the biggest cybercrimes in history, subscribe to this channel. We're going deep on the stories most people never hear. Next episode, the 21-year-old who accidentally stopped the biggest ransomware attack the world had ever seen. And then the FBI investigated him for it. 500 million people. That's where this story started. But remember, while Yahoo didn't know for 2 full years, someone was reading everything, copying everything, collecting it all. The question isn't whether your data has been compromised. It's how many times.